Hello. And thank you all for coming out. There's lots of you. Most of you can't sit, so you're going to get cramp. That's something to look forward to later. Also, it's weird being in front of a lectern. I feel like Jim Sterling or something. I'm going to have to adjust this. Kind of regretting that now. Right, I'm now going to check and see how far I can get away from the microphone while you can still hear me. Hello. 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 Here? Is this okay? Ah, that's good. That's more comfortable. I'm going to direct it slightly. So, hello and welcome to this unrehearsed and previously undone presentation called Terrible Old Games You've Probably Never Heard Of. Currently it feels like the weirdest rock concert ever. Hello Norwich, are you ready to rock? Yeah. Anybody here from Stowmarket? Anybody here swallow a moth this morning?
No, I've never swallowed a moth.
I've never swallowed a moth before, and I wouldn't recommend it as a lifestyle choice or a sort of gourmet choice, really. They're covered in dust, which is now in my throat. That's a really nice thing to think about before you give a presentation. So, this is all about games that are terrible, and they're old, and you probably haven't heard of them. You may have got that impression from the thing behind me there. There is some audience participation. Evil face. But it's going to be limited to trying to play a really old game while we point and laugh. At the game, not at you, we hasten to add. Unless you've got a particularly worrying hat. So, this is all off the back of my lovely book. I've picked up the wrong copy. My lovely book. This is the horrible trade paperback from Amazon. Boo hiss. This is the lovely posh one you can buy afterwards. Look, it's shiny. Yeah. So to cut a very long story short, I'm slightly obsessed with really old games that aren't very good. You may have guessed that already. I'm going to give you a quick background to where I got started in computers. This is a Commodore VIC-20. And what a beast it was. My uncle gave me one in 1986, and to be honest, it was a bit out of date by then. It wasn't the most exciting of things. But we played some games on it, and there were things like Radar Rat Race, which is a total copy of an arcade game called Rally X. Except for some reason, they thought it would be a good idea to replace cars with mice. So we've got no idea of that. This is Envahi, which I think is some sort of pun on the French verb to invade or something. It's like a weird cross between Space Invaders and Blitz. It's actually quite good. Not that you would tell that from this image. And finally, Cosmic Cruncher is the only other one I remember, which is like Pac-Man, except Pac-Man is the Commodore logo and the game doesn't work properly. And it was not a terrific amount of fun. I've also just remembered another game called Pirates Cove, which was a text adventure. But I've only just remembered it, so I don't have a picture. If you wish to imagine some text on a screen, there, if you've done that, well done. You now have a full image of Pirates Cove. Right, but for Christmas, oh my goggly goodness, I got a Spectrum Plus 2, which is kind of a grey Spectrum with a data corder built in. A data corder being like a tape deck that doesn't quite work properly. But it was the greatest thing ever because I could actually get new games and play them and enjoy them. And it came with Punchy. And Punchy is a rip-off of Hunchback, the arcade game, except it doesn't quite work properly. And it's ludicrously over-difficult. The character in the middle is supposed to be a policeman, clearly drawn by somebody who has no idea what a policeman is, or indeed any concept of visual media at all. And it had sampled speech, horrifyingly low-quality sampled speech. Every time your character died, it went, "Ee, ha, 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 ee, rock the baby," whilst an evil face appeared. And I haven't slept since. It's not a good game. Another thing I've just remembered is if you fall off that magic carpet thing he's on, he doesn't fall into the pit, he just falls over and dies in midair. Lazy. Rubbish. But I still got some enjoyment out of it because it was one of the few games I had. Now, time came when I'd saved up 10 mighty pounds, which was enough to buy a new game, and my dad went off and picked the game himself. He only ever did that once because he came back with Cat Trap, Planet of the Catmen, which is part of the very popular genre of killer egg games. Now, I was quite excited when he brought it back because it got really good review in Crash magazine, which was the ZX Spectrum magazine that I personally subscribed to. What I didn't realise was the reason it got a good review is because they had effectively made it, or at least funded it. It was an idea from a reader who had won a competition called Genesis, Birth of a Game. And the idea he came up with was this Cat Trap Planet of the Catman thing. It's actually quite a solid idea. Less solid was the execution, because it seemed like the design studio that made it kind of lost interest. I would have said 18 seconds after they cashed the cheque. So you ended up with this, which looks quite nice from here. The little character on the left, the little egg guy, is called the Multi-Terrain Exploration Droid, which shortens to MTED, or MTED. Hey, see what they did there. And there's some evil catmen, and you shoot them, and you run about, and there's not actually much game to it. There's an idea that you have to collect different weapons for different enemies that never really plays out. You can fire grenades that don't do anything, and the whole thing has got kind of not entirely had their hand in the whole idea all the way along, written quite thickly across the design document, I think. The thing that really sticks in my mind and made this absolute a waste of money, though, it was far too easy, apparently. And so, to get round this, they created the orbs, which are those spherical things there. And the orbs don't hurt your character, they don't take away power, but they knock you back to the start of the level. They're also virtually impossible to jump over, you get stuck on them, and there's like loads of them together. So you touch one, and you can get thrown right back to the start of the level. So it could take you literally 15 minutes to get across like 3 screens. This is what we call artificial difficulty, or again, they couldn't really be bothered. And I was not particularly impressed that I had saved up a long time for something naff. My dad has never bought a video game since, as you can imagine. This thing kind of sat in the back of my head for some time, and it's got me thinking years later, when you've got access to all these video games through emulation, you can just download them off the internet and they're tiny little files. I wonder what the worst games ever released actually were, which led me to create my series Terrible Old Games You've Probably Never Heard Of, that I used to do on the internet, but not enough people watch it and it takes ages to make, which is why it turned into a book. That's how business works. And it's one of those things where I thought, oh, there's going to be some quite bad stuff, and there'll be a few. I had no idea of the sort of horrifying garbage they were spewing out into shops and daring to charge people for. I've just researching this one book, I've probably got enough to write 5 books on it. And my criteria are quite strict. It has to have been commercially released, i.e. somebody has, put it out in the shop and dared to take your cash for it. But also, it can't be kind of just a buggy mess. It has to be something where there's a fundamental flaw with the design, where they haven't quite, got the whole thing together, and it just doesn't work as a result, which gives the bottom line of no reasonable person could have fun playing the game. Because, of course, the whole point of a game is you play it for enjoyment. And if that's not really possible, then they've kind of fundamentally failed at everything they were trying to do. Not that people cared in the early 80s when they were just trying to shove a game out on the VIC-20 for £7, as we will very shortly discover. I also had a rule for the book, no console games. It's all just computer games released between 1980 and 1995. So it's all stuff like Commodore Amiga, ZX Spectrum. I could now list a load of old computers, and I won't. So there's no Nintendo, no Sega, no stuff along those lines. Because you may have noticed earlier, we had the you've probably never heard of bit. And stuff like Nintendo and Sega is so heavily covered on YouTube. I mean, everybody's seen the review of, oh, look, it's E.T. for the Atari 2600, it's Superman for the Nintendo 64. We've seen all that. I wanted to find really obscure and horrible things, and managed to find things so bad. Well, let's get into it, shall we? This is the slideshow I called End of Slideshow. Quite pleased with it. Might try and get it in the Tate. Anyway, let's get rid of this. And I am now going to show you something several of you will have seen, because we actually used it to test the screen earlier. This is just to give you an idea of what games can be like when they're really pretty goddamn terrible. This is Hunter for the Atari 8-bit series. Bear with me, I shall blow it up full screen because you really need to see it and hear it. Ready, and Are we having fun yet? Anybody notice a problem with the game design?
Yes.
Anybody notice any frames of animation? Music's nice though. There we are, that was 25 seconds of Hunter for the Atari 8-bit. Now here's the real joy, that was released in 1995. That was the same year Sony released the first PlayStation. Some people were paying money for Ridge Racer, some people were paying money for that. It was only released by mail order in Germany because the Atari 8-bit was quite out of favour by then, by being hideously and ridiculously outdated, but it still had a market. And so these cheeky blighters were just going, oh, Hunter, yes, it's a good game. Well, they probably did it in German, but it's a good game and you can buy it from us, send us 15 Deutschmarks. And then the game comes back, and yeah, somebody spent money on that. Was somebody's Christmas. Unbelievable. So, we are now going to go through, and I'm going to come up with my theory of the 7 gaming sins, which are 7 horrifying design flaws that if you have any one... It's a bit like actually in Harry Potter where they have those unforgivable curses. If you do one of the evil ones, you get straight sent off to wizard prison where Helena Bonham Carter's banging on your wall all day. Imagine that, but for game design. If you manage to do any of these, your game is going to be almost entirely unenjoyable by anybody. And many of these games manage to tick several of these boxes, which is quite impressive in a horrible way. Right, we're going to start with Killer Caverns for the Oric 1. Who had an Oric 1? I really wish I'd actually brought mine, just because it's a cool looking thing. It's got some red keys on it. The Oric 1 is mostly famous for having a bug in the tape loading routine, which means tapes repeatedly refuse to load, and it's basically random if you can get a game working or not. They then released an upgraded version called the Oric Atmos that was a bit more powerful and didn't fix that bug, which it still absolutely blows me away to this day. Right, just to warn you, this is very technically bad, running lots of different emulators, because they're all sorts of things written by hobbyists and that. So this will probably go horribly wrong repeatedly. So that's something to look forward to. Right, now Killer Caverns here is, I'm going to give it a posh name and then a realistic name for the flaw with it. This is what we call zero control over win/loss status. Or in layman's terms, game's bloody pointless. Because you have no actual say in whether you win or lose. You may as well just toss a coin at the start and then say, hey, I won Killer Caverns or I lost Killer Caverns. It really is that bad. Right, let us get this thing up and running. Load snapshot. Oh, here we are. Killer Caverns by Darrell Bowers. Why is this in such a small window? Hang on. I can't make the window bigger. That's good. No, make it big. Oh, this is going to be fun. Video options, full screen. Hey, look at that. Right. So, level 1 to 9. 1 is easiest. Now, this is what psychologists would call a lie. Because all the levels appear to be exactly the same. We haven't gone through the source code, but it seems to make no odds. We're going to start off with 1, because it's easiest. It lied to us. Right, so prepare for the graphic fest that is Killer Caverns. And I shall talk very slowly, because I know it takes a while for the first screen to appear. And here it is. That is not the logo from an accounting firm, that is the main character. So the story goes, this gentleman wants to get the treasure. The treasure is a red block. I don't know, maybe he's building some Lego and got a piece missing or something. But the treasure's down a big hole. How is he going to get it? Is he going to go to B&Q and get some rope and a ladder? No, he's going to go into the Killer Caverns and try and pick up 11 parts of a ladder in the most lethal set of caverns in the world, which are to the left. And being as he lives in a 2D world and can't go to the right, that's probably going to happen. Just enjoy the animation of that. Andy Serkis did do the motion capture. So we go left into the caverns. Oh my goodness. I've never noticed that before. He's on fire. Oh, that's fun for him. Right, so it's a room full of pencils. And that is deadly steam hissing from the ceiling. Oh, Oh, that sound effect. Sound effect's quite realistic. Well, like the beautiful graphics. Now, you may have noticed that the steam appears at random intervals in random places. So you cannot time it. You can't stand where the steam is, wait for it to go and go through. You see, it just went ages with no steam, and then suddenly there's some more. And every single room and puzzle in the game is like this. It's totally random if you make it across or not. So I'm literally just going to hold left and hope. Go on, my friend. I think that is a victory. So, next room. There's a red thing. That's nice. Oh, good God. I think that's Kingseeker Frampt from Dark Souls. So, you can stand here and wait and go immediately afterwards, but again, it's random, so you might as well hold the... Oh, when it says hard luck, it means that most literally, it's entirely luck-based. Let's try that again. Dun, 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 dun. Oh. Perhaps I should have waited. I could have had some control over the game, or at least fooled myself. Did you know one of the major causes of human stress is thinking you have no control over your life? This game is fairly stress-inducing in that sense. I'm actually getting quite annoyed playing it now. It's incredible. I do like the amount of time it gives you at the top, though. I think that's like 15 years or something. Right. I'm going to try waiting in front of it and going over. I know full well it does nothing, but... Right, stand here whilst the big blue sock puppet comes up. Go on, come on. Give us a kiss, come on. Yay, there he is. Feed it some crisps. And yes! Look at that. What is the next room? It's probably going to be the steam again, I reckon. Oh no, it's this same one again. That's nice. So what's in the next screen? Please be the same again, it'll be hilarious. No? Nothing. Okay, now I'm worried. No, that's just an empty screen maybe? Or maybe the random counter didn't trip, we don't know. Ah, the deadly red pencils. Notice how quickly they appear, literally instantly. They're usually in different places, to be fair. Go on, let's finish the game. I wouldn't want to deprive an audience of seeing a full game of Killer Caverns. Go on, go on. Go on. Oh, yes. Can we find a bit of the ladder, please? Apparently not. These are slightly troubling, these empty rooms. What lurks within? One of the rooms has a floating scorpion. Oh. Well, that's the end of that chapter. Yeah, one of the rooms has a floating scorpion that makes constant flatulent noises. So Farty the floating scorpion is the real hero of the game. Play again, N. Oh, wait. The N button doesn't do anything. You have to press Y. Thanks, Daryl Bowers. Daryl Bowers was about 15 when he wrote this game, but we won't let him off because it was being sold for money. He ended up being a very good programmer, though. He wrote several good things, I believe. Was he one of the people behind North and South on Commodore 64? I believe he was, which is an excellent game. But this is kind of like something he did when he was first learning, I think is a very polite way to put it. So there we are. That is zero control over win-loss status. I'm now going to work out how to quit this. This may take me several months. Quit. That sounds about right. Ah, victory achieved. Now, that is sin number 1. Sin number 2 is unclear sensory feedback, also known as can't bloody tell what's going on. Load of squid, enter. I'm going to be demonstrating this with Graffiti Man on the Atari ST, which is a bit of a cheat, because there are better games on the... So I've got a really good example on the Amiga, but you try emulating an Amiga on a laptop with HDMI out. It's not going to happen. So I'm going to ask for a volunteer from the audience. Who would like to play Graffiti Man?
Me!
He does. Go on then. Come up, sir. What's your name?
Niall.
Hello, Niall. Have you ever played Graffiti Man on the Atari ST before?
No.
I feel for you. And soon we all will. I've got no idea how we're going to do this with a microphone. I'll just kind of stand here. Right, I'm going to get up and running. Oh, that's nice. The pasty DLL is in... Oh, the pasty DLL is still in the preliminary beta version. If everybody can make a note of that, there will be a quiz later. George Quick hasn't done anything on it since 2006, though. There we are. And now Windows is paranoid. This is getting better. It knows we're going to play Graffiti Man. Here we are. We got there. That's clear enough, isn't it? Right. Can you hear the music?
Yeah.
Let's make it a bit louder. I regret doing that. Right, Niall, if you wish to take the hot seat... Hang on. I'm going to have to hover over your shoulder like a weird uncle. I apologise. These are the controls. Left, right, up, down.
Okay.
There we are. If you wish to put your right or left hand, depending how you work, that's it. There's no shooting or anything. It's nice and simple. And I think to start, you just press a button. There we are. It will go straight into the game. Good luck. We're all counting on you. The idea is to run from the left side of the screen to the right.
Okay. Here's the car to load.
It does, certainly does. They come off floppy disks. There we go. There you are, the Graffiti Man in black there, running along. He's doing well. There's a weird man coming behind him, and oh, you physically exploded. And we start again. Can you tell what's going on?
People are running in the street.
That is literally all you can get from this. And again, you've been hit from something from behind you couldn't quite work out. I'm really glad you went down first. Most people in Play It go up or to the right, and they die within a second. I've also just noticed the old man's firing out walking games. Oh, bad luck!
Game over.
That's it. Did you enjoy your time with Graffiti Man? Has it enriched your life?
No, it's too hard.
Is exactly the lesson to learn. Thank you very much, mate. If you wish to sit down. Good work. So, as you can tell, you can't tell what's going on. You just start off. It's a mass of the most ugly cartoon characters this side of a French novel. And, I've practiced this game, and I'm now going to show you what happens when you can... I'm going to try and show you what happens. So, Niall had it quite right. You have to go down first. It's all a bit of one of those, bit of a memory test more than, say, something you could physically enjoy. Down we go. The idea is that this main Graffiti Man character wants to join a graffiti gang, for reasons I have no understanding of, and that for some reason involves running through ugly and incredibly dangerous neighbourhoods. So, we're going to go here, and now I'm going to go up and round. Oh, no, I got slightly close to the old man, which causes the Graffiti Man to explode. I don't know what ailment he has, but I really hope I never catch it. Right, up we go. Down again. Okay, oh yeah, I'm going to go for this. There we are. There's an Amiga version of this. Don't play that, it's just as bad. Okay, oh my goodness. Now you may notice, the further you get to the right, the closer you get to the edge of the screen. Oh, no, up. Oh, my goodness. The problem there is sometimes enemies come from the right. Okay, that's level 1, and what fun we had. Now you get the bonus game, which you can understand what's going on, but the idea is simply to spray over somebody else's graffiti. So he's supposed to be some sort of great artist, and all he does is find childish graffiti and then spray what looks like fake snow over it. And this goes on until all those spray cans in the bottom right run out. Do you know how much this game was on its release in 1987? £25. Using RPI to bring that up to modern amounts, that's 19 trillion American dollars. This is seriously one of the most expensive games released for the Atari ST. And I'm just going to stand here till the paint runs out, because I kind of wish I was dead. The score goes up if you're covering blue, not if you're covering another colour. A bit of technical information for you there. Also, if you look at the life... Oh, it's gone now. I was going to say, look at the life meter in the bottom left. It looks like the man's been boiled. So, level 2. If you thought level 1 was fun, well, you probably weren't watching, but Steve Martin from Roxanne there. Right. So, we're going to go along and run along the bottom as before. This is much easier. Dum, dum, dum. I don't know how the old man is firing rockets out of his knees, but not something I've ever seen. Oh, look! You got near the right-hand side of the screen, a horrifying racist caricature came on and I exploded. And there's no way of seeing what's going on. it's one of the most poorly designed games, and they could have almost got away with it if it was like £2 or something, but 25? I mean, a car cost like 8 pence in those days. Deary me. Right, I'm going to attempt to quit this, and I hope I'm successful. Let's just take a moment to enjoy life without Graffiti Man. That's beautiful. So, gaming sin number 3, complete lack of meaningful challenge, or it's too bloody easy. For this, I'm going to demonstrate this one myself, actually. This is Alien Raiders for the Commodore VIC-20, also known as Alien Invaders, because it was written by a company called Harteveld Software. They probably thought it wasn't good enough to release, and then another company did, and surreptitiously changed the name on the title screen. Didn't change the name in the game, where it's written right across the top, so well done there. Really quality theft. Okay, this is what a VIC-20 looks like. It's not stretched, it does have that horrible font. Can I make this bigger? Oh, I can, right. This is much easier than going full screen or using HDMI. Lovely. 3,583 bytes free of memory. Any programmers in here? What could you do with that much memory? Weep, apparently, yeah. Okay. We are going to load this. This was sold on cartridge, by the way, so would have been quite expensive. And music by Philip Glass there. That's wonderful. Press return. Shall we press return?
Yeah.
Go on. Right, if you're familiar with Space Invaders, then you are a human that lives. And, yep, here are the controls. Chevron left for right, chevron right for right, and left shift fires. I can live with that. You'll notice it's already calling itself Alien Invaders again. Right, so this is Space Invaders, written by somebody who has no concept of fun. Now, it looks pretty poor to start off with. There's a reason for that. It is pretty poor. But you may notice that there's kind of no smooth animation of the base at the bottom. It has 20 different positions it can be in, and can only fire one bullet at a time. The aliens come down from one of these 20 positions, and they kind of, you know, don't move very fast. You could say they're not in much of a hurry, you know. Maybe they're looking at their phone. Maybe they're trying to work out what they're going to buy from Morrison's later. My experience with Morrison's will be out of stock, whatever it is. Score's up to 80 now. That's fun, isn't it? Yeah. I'm finding this quite relatively difficult because I'm not looking at the screen straight on, but still not really close to losing the game. Ooh, score's nearly up to 100. Oh, it's up to 100. We win. We have now completed the entirety of Alien Invaders. That was what we on YouTube call a Let's Play walkthrough. Just imagine PewDiePie in the corner there getting all excited. You beat the aliens. Another game? Y or N? Here's a hint. Doesn't begin with Y. So, the problem there with Alien Invaders is it's so simple, you cannot fail at it unless you deliberately try. And you have to just leave it for like 3 hours for the aliens to actually hit the bottom of the screen. This has got to be some sort of kids' first programming project, surely, but it was released on a physical cartridge. And they were tape games for the VIC-20, so, you know, it was a really expensive way of doing it. And if you were playing mail order in America and you spent like the equivalent of £12 or something on this, I imagine you're still crying to this day. I'm going to say no to another game. Oh. It immediately drops you back to... There we are. Any programmers in the audience who wish to copy this game? Here is the entire source code. That was all it really took. It's so easy that I've actually run this game 3 times simultaneously in different emulator windows and easily beat all of them. You can literally play it 3 times at once. I could probably have had a cup of tea and written a small novel at the same time. I've seen a lot of games that aren't fun because they're too easy, but I've never seen one that's literally no fun because it's too easy. Thank you, Harteveld Software, and whoever released it under the wrong name. Right, we're now going to go in for number 4, Impossibility of Success, or Too Bloody Difficult. Complete opposite end of the spectrum. We're going to play License to Kill on the Acorn Electron. And I must apologise because this emulator, or in fact none of the Electron ones, work properly with save memory states, which is another way of saying we have to load this in as if it was a real emulator, real ELK, as they called it back in the day, the Acorn Electron. If you're not familiar with the Acorn Electron, it is the BBC Micro, which is the old computer you'd have in your school in the 80s, but a massively cut down version. And I'm going to be honest, the BBC Micro was a little at the time anyway, so a cut down version, really not fun. Right, License to Kill. I've now got to remember how to load an Acorn Electron game. Is it chain? I think it is. Let's find out. Oh, look at that. The tape doesn't physically exist, we'll be fine. And please don't beep at me, it's very rude. Right. So, who's a fan of black screens? I'm going to take this opportunity to have a drink. Dum, da, dum, dum, dum. This isn't loading, by the way, in the background. It does this on a real machine. We played it at the Cambridge Computer Museum, and the chap's like, oh, I don't think the tape's working. But no, this is what happens. This is the pain we had to live with. And before it comes up, I must warn you, this game was quite a big seller. It was actually, oh, thank you for buying this alternative software. You are now licensed to kill. But only in the game. Well, unfortunately, I have committed quite a few murders on the back of that. But... Right, I'm going to read you the plot because it's painful. It's full of incredibly bad references to the ZX Spectrum and how they don't like it. Also, it's mostly rubbish because this game is quite clearly about infiltrating a Nazi base during World War II. And at some point they decided to just change the plot to something about the ZX Spectrum. They didn't change the game at all. So your character is supposed to have an electric screwdriver he uses to disable robots, and actually clearly has a knife. And also it never explains why what is apparently a Sinclair factory has swastikas on all the doors. One for Sir Clive to answer there. So, the dream team of S. Guest and J. Hamlet, licensed to kill. The top secret Sinclair factories have been taken over by the neo-Nazi organisation. Ah, that explains the symbols. The dreaded Sir Clives. They went on to write cracker jokes professionally. Your mission to recover the C7 3/4, joke about the C5 maybe, and to make your escape. The recovery involves the cracking of the master spectrum. David Frost was a script consultant, to get the instructions and design of the C7 3/4. To do this, an access code is stored in 6 different computers which must be individually accessed. This is done by entering the access code. Makes sense. You have 115 seconds in which you must find the code. You will be told if you have successfully entered the current code. This changes after every attempt. A cassette is required to save the part of the accessed code. A disk is required to save the data from the master spectrum. You can carry only 6 cassettes and 1 disk at once. When attempting to enter the code, you are told how many wrong you have and how many right. Wrong represents the ones which are in the wrong position but are still in the code, and right those which are correct. Anybody remember Monty Python's Meaning of Life with the sketch about putting your clothes on a higher peg? Because it's getting a bit like that. Also required, oh good, to use the C7 3/4, the C7 starter key, larger than normal keys and multicoloured. Lovely. When this and all the data has been gathered, you will be able to escape. I'm looking forward to that bit. You are armed only with an electromagnetic screwdriver. On stabbing the robots, their teleport system is activated, thus they are removed to a random position on the level which you currently occupy. When it says the position which you currently occupy, they can literally teleport onto the position you occupy and kill you instantly, so that's always nice. The reason I've read this is it's totally irrelevant. There don't seem to be any keys in the game at all, no doors to go in, and basically no point to playing it whatsoever. And here we are, licensed to kill. You see the scrolling text in the middle, whilst the random beeps go on? That is the entirety of the play area. It only takes up 12.5% of the screen. I will require a victim from the audience. Person there, you were in my eye line. Come on down. The price is horribly wrong. It cost about £8. Hello there. What's your name, sir?
George.
Hello, George. I respectfully request for you to relinquish any joy in your life and play License to Kill. It is controlled, he says, quickly looking at the notes, by blah, 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 blah. Z and X
Yep.
move left and right, and return is stab with the electromagnetic screwdriver. And I warn you now, there are other controls. Ain't gonna need them. Right, if you want to put, so it's, I've forgotten already, Z and X, left and right.
Yeah.
Oh, it started. And return is stab. There we go. Good work.
Stab someone.
Score 100. 150. He's doing well. Oh no, he's touched you. Arg. You did very well. It's almost impossible to actually hit them, so you must have the reflexes of many pumas. Oh, 2 came at once, which is impossible to kill. That's fair. Haven't found many multicoloured keys so far. The floor looks like it's made out of knitted rope from old Christmas jumpers. Oh no! So your score is 400. I think that's like a worldwide high score. You can go up and down the ladder at the start. It makes no difference. It just changes the level. So you can go to level 42 and laugh about old bands. And last life. Come on. The world is so in your debt if you can win. Oh!
It's hard.
You have been sacked by MI7.
Oh, wonderful.
Also, you're dead. I thought that would take precedence, but there we are. Well, you genuinely did incredibly well. Most people can't hit a single enemy. This means you are now promoted to Super James Bond. Well done. Please take a seat. Press shift to continue, a key which is not used anywhere else in the game. You scored 550. And the Can plays, that famous piece of music renowned the world over for espionage. JR was a bad guy, but I bet you can't top him. If you get a high score, you will ruin this message. Notice the lowest high score is nearly double the best I've seen anybody ever play it. I'm going to have to stop that because it's going to make my... No. It's over. It's over. So yeah, there's difficulty, and then there's whatever that is. It also has the cheat of having all these instructions for things which just aren't in the game. We've gone through it, cheating with save states for ages. You go from left to right forever. It never ends. There's never any doors to go in. There's no way to pick up keys. There are no keys. It seems to be a bit of a scam in tape form, and it's sold quite well. You can pick it up on eBay for a couple of quid to this day to play on your Acorn Electron and make all your friends hate you forever and ever. Right, let's go on to the next sin, which we call singular viable gameplay strategy, or bloody boring. This is a game where there's one way to play it successfully, and if you deviate from that single strategy at any stage, you'll lose. You won't win, you'll lose every time. And if you do anything other than this single repetitive action, that's the end of it. I remember thinking about this years ago from examples from various games, and then I found a game called Alien Sidestep, released on the Commodore 64 and the VIC-20, and it exists entirely in that kind of spectrum of there's one thing you can do, don't do that, game over. Let's give it a shot here. Bum, bum, bum. If you ever worked in Dixon's, you used to see that all the time. I've just realised what I should have done, actually. Oh no, the other one. No, the other one. Oh no, I don't know a Commodore 64 keyboard layout. I've ruined everything. If you put a semicolon in, it staggers the text. There's a little tip for you. Never worked well on the Spectrum because you had to press space to scroll. Right, Alien Sidestep. Oh, we're going. There's no title screen on this one. Right, quickly, what are the keys? There we are. So, it's like Space Invaders, written by somebody who was very bored one afternoon and didn't want to go to their grands for tea or something, so wrote this instead. So, let's shoot the aliens. Have you worked out why it's called Alien Sidestep yet? This is the entire game. You've got to stop the aliens landing. The only way to do it is to fire whilst moving from left to right, because then they sidestep into another bullet. I'm going to move to the right-hand side of the screen and then move back to the left, firing all the time. I'm going to move to the right-hand side of the screen and then move back to the left, firing the whole time. I'm going to move to... Do you spot the problem here? If you don't do this, you lose. You literally have no meaningful choices as a player. And if you do this, you kind of never lose. You can just keep doing it forever. And 50 points? What was that for? Wow. I think I may now be the king of this game. The only other thing you can do which kind of works is to do that, which involves less left and right movement. But it's not quite as effective. So it's kind of a secondary strategy that is fairly enfeebled. Again, this was released on cartridge. People paid serious money for this in the early days. I forget what year it was. Let's have a look. 1983. What a year it was. The release of Alien Sidestep being the thing they always mention in news reports. Anybody here heard of quality control or play testing? If you have, get a time machine, go back to 1983 and have a word with the people who wrote this. They really would put anything out. So there we are, that's how you take any fun away from the game. You've got to do one thing repeatedly. A bit like one of those MMOs where you have to grind at the start and kill a load of rats and then take a sausage to the Sausage King and all that sort of really boring fetch quests you do at the start. But distilled down to one movement, the movement being right to left, repeatedly firing. The joys. Right, the next one is my personal favourite. Total concept failure. Also known as, what were they bloody thinking? I'm going to ask for somebody from the audience to come up and be really, really horrified. I'm going to be really lazy and pick this gentleman because he's right near the front. This is for the Amstrad CPC. It's called Surprise, Surprise. It has nothing to do with the Cilla Black program. I think they were just trying to cash in on it. The cover of the game, which I really wish I'd brought actually, features a medieval knight shooting lightning out of his hand. The game is about turning up to somebody's party late and not being able to find where it starts. There are no knights in it or lightning. It's the most inexplicable cover I've ever seen. Anyway, let's get this emulator up and running. My goodness, could that be any smaller? I really hope we can... oh yes, we can expand it. There we go. Oh, it's a 128K version. I'm sure that will help. Right, load snapshot. Surprise, surprise, double games I've never heard of. Here we go. Everybody enjoying that lovely beat? There we go.
I'm slightly worried now.
Sorry? Sorry, mate, I can't. Oh, yep, sure thing. Turn the volume down. I was enjoying it so much. That's where dubstep was born, this game. Right.
I'm ever so slightly worried now.
You well should be. What's your name, sir?
Jake.
Right, Jake. The controls are, he says, looking at the thing, just the cursor keys again.
Oh.
Oh, there we are.
Oh, that's useful enough.
I've noticed when the character stands up, he turns into Eminem. But when he's down, he's somebody else entirely. Isn't that weird? Right, so this is the start room of the game. That, I think, is a fireplace drawn by an idiot. Oh, well done. Right. Much like in real life, your life instantly ends if you go near a stranger's fireplace. You have scored 0 out of 5. Nobody knows how the scoring works. Try again, sir.
Okay.
My goodness, went up an octave there. Lovely walking animation. You can always tell the programmer when he's walking around town. Oh my goodness, I've forgotten that. Flappy feet. He's got those flappy feet. Here we are. Oh, lemons. Giant lemons. Oh, lemon touched you. Game over.
Not the lemons.
Anything but the Nicolas Cage. Not the lemons. Right. Try again, sir. Try different routes, as the lemons were horrifying. I like the way it takes him a month to walk across the screen. That really helps the gameplay, in my opinion.
He's turned into a bit of an aircraft.
He's coming into land. Right. Oh, you're making a very sensible decision of lining up exactly. Because if you touch the walls, you can guess what happens. And it doesn't involve butterflies coming out of the game. Right. You've got to be exactly like... There we go. Oh, no, I was going to say apples. I don't know what they are. Clown noses? Is it comic relief? Oh, good work. Good work.
Best party.
Oh, no, you're not exactly... Oh, there we are. Oh, dear. The red noses are out in force now.
Oh, God. How am I going to get... How do you get past that?
How do you get past that? You don't. Bless your heart. Thank you very much, Jake. I'm going to load a memory snapshot from much further into the game, where this house now features a weird candy-striped moving stick that crushes people, which you can get from IKEA. It's called a Nop-Up and is only $14.99. I'm going to load that in again, because I enjoyed it so much. No, there is a reason. Oh no, that's the wrong one. We've seen this screen. It has scarred us for life. Right, I'm going to go to the right. He's an Olympic sprinter, this man. Oh no, I can't get through the... Yep. Oh, there we are. Ah! Right, I don't know what is at the bottom of the screen. Graphical corruption or the Rainbow Road to Asgard. I've got no idea. Now, you'll notice the red... I don't know what's called. Apple? Red nose? Useless graphic? Let's call it that. Just drops from the screen wherever you're standing. Also, I move much quicker in this screen. Don't know where that is. So we're going to go and try to get through the top hatch there. Bear in mind it takes ages to line yourself up. Oh wait, the closer I get to the top of the screen, the closer the apple appears till it appears directly on you. I have never been able to get through that door. I imagine beyond it lie the riches of Solomon. Or possibly another screen full of graphical corruption and big lemons. I don't really know. So what were going through the heads of the designers as they wrote that? Shortly afterwards, I'm sure knives and bullets were going through their heads from anybody who played it. But so I've got this idea for a game. You're in a house. You move really weirdly and slowly. Everything kills you instantly. And you look like Eminem when you walk upwards. Brilliant. Take my money. And indeed he did. I don't know what the sales were like for that. I'm hoping less than zero, but actually I don't think it did so well, because I've never been able to come across a copy second-hand as yet. Yes, I collect them. Don't judge me. Right. And finally, we are going to come up with the most egregious fault of all. This is, perhaps you could argue this is more technical than design, but it goes kind of beyond that into the very DNA of it. This is zero existence scenario. Or game don't bloody exist. Imagine you bought a game and it didn't exist. That's an existential crisis right there, isn't it? Present to you Squidge on the ZX Spectrum. At least I think it's called Squidge. It's Squig, which isn't pronounceable in English or spellable in English. And it does star a pigeon. So is it short for Squidgeon, which is like a term for... I don't know. That's the theory of my friend Guru Larry, bless him, who discovered this game one day and has never been the same since. Welcome to Squidge. Why, thank you. There's two paper birds. Now, the idea of this is, in a post-apocalyptic future, a mutant pigeon called Squidge needs to find some food. Because I don't know if you know this, but if pigeons don't eat, they die. Useful fact for you there. A bit of biology. At least you've learned something today. But the problem in post-apocalyptic worlds are they're full of weird monsters, apparently, and he needs a sustainable food source. So he needs to find the magic tree of food. Actually, they call it a much better name than that, but I can't remember what it is. This is a Commodore 64 game, a very poor Commodore 64 game. It was converted to the Commodore 16 and made even poorer. And then there was the Spectrum version by Jason Creighton. Never forget the name, for he's kind of a war criminal in Spectrum circles for this game. Right, let's play the game. I will now use the controls. There are loads of controls, but only actually the up, down, left, right movements work. You can't shoot. Right, here we go. ZX is left and right, and MB is up and down. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry. There we are. Hang on. None of the controls work. There is no way to control Squidge. And the reason is this. In the source code, he turns on, he being the programmer, not Squidge. He didn't sort of go Tron-like into his own code. He turned on the caps lock, and of course the game is expecting keys without caps lock. There is literally no way to play this game. But wait. By using break, you can actually go into the program and then use a memory poke to turn off caps lock and actually play the game, which I shall do now. I've got to remember the button for poke on Spectrum. Oh no, Spectrum uses weird keywords. Ah, got it, right. I can never remember this off the top of my head, but to turn off the caps lock on the Spectrum, the memory address is 23658, and we shall change that to 0. 1 being on, 0 being off, 2 being a crashed program. There we are, we've done that. Run Squidge again. Thanks for that beep, that really makes the whole thing for me. Play game, here we go. Yay! Dun 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 dun! He's going. He's kind of moving. There's a dirty line on him that may be a wing. The enemies have stopped, but they're kind of not moving. How do you get past the enemies to go into the next room? Oh look, part of the enemy is stuck to my face. That's good. How do we get across here? It's slower than the bloke from Surprise Surprise. It's turned around. I'm pushing right the whole time. Let's try going up. You're a pigeon. You can fly. Come on. Well, you look more like a bad boat from Great Yarmouth than one of these sort of tourist attractions, but I can't seem to go anywhere. I've got 44 on the score because the score goes up forever. My energy is only at 20. 10. Oh dear. Oh, what a plonker! You've just got yourself killed. I kind of feel like I had no actual say in the matter, to be honest, Mr. Crane. Of course, you could just sit at the bottom of the screen and accrue infinite score over an infinite period of time, but who has that long? So you can't get out of the first room. The weird thing is, the first time I ever played this, I got to the exits on the left and right and left the room, and I've never been able to do it since. Nobody's been able to repeat this feat. I wish I had damn well recorded it, but I didn't. Go to the left, and nothing happens. You can't go through the door. Go to the right, and the game crashes. It's because there is no game. The story with Squidge goes, Mr. Creighton was tasked with programming some games for a company called the Powerhouse. And they said, oh, we want a conversion of this Squidge game. But unfortunately, he had got very upset with the people who worked there on a personal level and was not going to be supplying them any more stuff. So he did the time-honoured creatives thing of delivering a product so deliberately awful, there's no way they can do anything with it. Unfortunately, the Powerhouse didn't have quality control beyond seeing if the tape loaded, and released it as part of a compilation with 3 other games. They also released it on its own for £3, I believe. So that means a game that doesn't work wasn't just released, it was released twice. And Mr. Creighton's plan failed miserably. I don't know if he still got paid. I kind of hope so on some sick level. But yeah, there's literally nothing to it. You can go in and check the entire source code. K is list, isn't it? We saw that earlier. There we are. The source code is bizarre. Line 1 says go to 2. Why is line 1 in there? And of course, there is no line 2. And it was written in something called Laser Basic, apparently, which looks suspiciously like Spectrum Basic to me, but he left the whole version of Laser Basic in the memory, apparently, so he kind of accidentally pirated a professional programming tool when he had this released. I can't actually think of any other game that's been released that doesn't exist. It's just, you know, here's a tape, it's got a title screen, you can't play it, and if you could, there is literally nothing behind it. I think for that reason, that may be the worst game ever released on the Spectrum. Except maybe for Crazy Kong by C-Tech, which has a similar problem of not really being a playable game. But there we go. So when anybody says, oh, worst game ever, it's E.T. for the Atari 2600, first, ask them what that accent is. I've got no idea where they come from. And secondly, just point out Squidge on the ZX Spectrum and run. And then keep running in one direction for at least 3 hours. So there we go. Those are the 7 major things. If you do any of those things when you're designing a game, you're going to end up with something entirely unplayable, particularly the one about the game not existing. That's really quite fundamental. If you're going to do any sort of enterprise in life, make sure it bloody exists. I cannot stress that to you enough. Now, the end of this originally was going to be just a nice little thing where we say, isn't it good that these days you can't ask money for a game that fundamentally doesn't work? Who's heard of Steam Greenlight? If you've never heard of it, well, look up Jim Sterling on YouTube and see his Steam Greenlight series, where he goes through and finds things people are paying or charging money for on Steam that aren't games, that don't work, that are just game creator programs where they've just done what's known as an asset flip of buying a game creator program and releasing the tutorial as their own game. You can find any tutorial like 15 times with different names released by different people in the hope of making a quick buck. So whilst the end of this was going to be a nice little thought of, isn't it great that this doesn't happen anymore? It's happening more than ever on devices we all have immediate access to. So I think the world is probably doomed. We should build a spaceship and go to Alpha Centauri, which would be a long journey, but not as long as crossing the screen and surprise, surprise. So there you have it. That is terrible old games you've probably never heard of. If you would like... Oh, I'm not going to leave that near somebody else's laptop. Spilling Coke on somebody else's laptop being one of the capital offences. If you would like a copy of the book where you can learn about these games and many others, Selling Face, they will be available just outside, near the main entrance as you come in on the left. So from the orientation where we are now, you would come out and go to the right. And this is beginning to sound like the instructions for License to Kill. You will need the multicoloured key and have 115 seconds in order to purchase the book. Anyway, they're all the nice posh copies. They're £15 each. They're published by Unbound. And, look at this. Take the dust jacket off. Embossed gold. I thank you. It's even got a ribbon so you can find your page. Wow. It's like living in the future, if the future was 1888. So there you are. Thank you very much for all your help with playing the games. Thank you very much for looking like you enjoyed it, even if you didn't. I always appreciate that, as does anybody giving a public talk. That is Terrible Old Games You've Probably Never Heard of. Thank you very much.